back to Gloomhaven. So we've gone through and we've painted all the main characters. We've gotten the Craighheart, we've gotten the Tinkerer, we've gotten the Scoundrel, the Brute, and who am I missing? And the Mind Thief. You know, we didn't play the Mind Thief. It was one of the characters that was available to play, so I got that one painted. And of course, we've gone and we've painted some of the unlocked characters. I'm not going to bother mentioning them on this episode because there's no sense in doing spoilers, because we're going to paint the last available character that you can use right out of the box, right, that's available to pick right away. And one of the reasons is because one of the players in our battle of Gloomhaven had decided that when he retired his last character, that he was going to play the Spellweaver instead, because he really just wanted to try it out. So, needless to say, we're now going to paint the Spellweaver. Now, I've seen some pictures of how this has been painted before, and I kind of don't really like it. It's like people are painting it that it's like half on fire and half, you know, ice or something. And it's not really like the way this character is, right? So I'm gonna try and stick to the picture. If you take a look at the picture, right, on how this character really looks, you know, you can see it's not really like that. It has kind of cold-looking skin, kind of like almost like a hair like diamonds. But it's obviously like maybe an ice or something. And then she's got clothing that's kind of, you know, resembles heat or something in a way, you know, and then she's got that heat in her one hand and she's got that cold in the other, right? But from all the other pictures of I've seen how of people that have actually painted this, it wasn't quite like that, I think. So I'm gonna try and see if I can resemble her a little more the way I think that she should be. But anyway, let's just let's get down to painting it. So the first thing is to get down some base colors. I'm using this purple just to kind of, it's more or less to darken up around the, you know, kind of like this leather material or whatever it is that she has for her boots and for the bottom part of her skirt. So again, it's just a base, and then we'll add some more color to it to really make it come out to the way that it should look in the end. So you may have noticed also that the base has already been painted in a green. That's a Death World Forest that I used for that. Just like all the other Gloomhaven, I'm just getting ahead and getting that done because I'm going to be doing the base just like I had for all the other characters as well. Alright, so first bit of layer is done, and now we're just going to add some red. Just deep old red for the back part of her cape. Again, this is just a layer. It's actually got a bit of a brown red in there, so you know, I'm gonna put in a deep red. I'm gonna add some brown to it after. We'll make it look the same or similar, you know. And again, it also kind of just getting some of the layers down makes it simple to identify where different things are on the character. Like if they've got a little dagger attached to their leg that you didn't notice before, or a little, you know, gold or brass buckles to, you know, the parts of her armor, to straps, to whatever. It just makes it easier to distinguish that and then be able to layer it and point it out and get it done after. So here I'm just kind of layering in some of that purple around armor on her arms and whatnot. And as we just kind of finish off, touching a little bit of that up, as you can see here. And again, it's just kind of layering. We're getting things prepared for the final. And the next step is, I think I'm going to start working on the base a bit. She has kind of like this is a ultramarine blue that I'm going to use for this kind of like watery, whatever that's coming up around her feet. And I put it on very lightly. It's almost washed, so some of the white actually still kind of comes through. Right, and I do that on purpose. I don't want to go too heavy on this, so it's almost like a wash, right? Because it kind of gives that definition still. It just kind of, stands out just the way that it is with all the definition that's already been carved into it. Just looks cool. Now from Citadel, this Macragge blue, I'm actually going to add this in now over top of what I've already done with her boots. And it's like the darker of the blue, I guess, coming kind of up, and I add this also into some other bits of her clothing, right? Because you'll see it kind of resembles the same or similar in the pictures as well. I think it actually looks pretty good. And you can see how she's kind of like emerging from this watery substance or whatever. Now going back to doing some of her clothing using a leather brown from Army Paints, I'm going to start working on her buckle and her belt and around the belt buckle and whatnot that she has. This stuff goes on really light, so you kind of have to either put a good base down or you got to do a lot of layers. And I find if there's lots of really fine detail, just doing lots of layers of actually the same leather brown actually works it really well. And then of course, you add your earth shade or something like that to it after. It really makes leather kind of pop. Dark stone. So of course, next layer onto the clothing. Now again, I'm brushing this on very lightly, and I'm just doing some of the ridges just to kind of add some variation to the clothing. It's not just one color, or it's not just one shade of color. And I think this is actually going to look pretty good for our second layer onto the clothing. Just getting the front done here, and I'll flip around, get the back done. It's bit by bit, as you can see, so that's starting to look a little bit more like something rather than just one color flat. Let's start layering. Now another thing to use the dark for as well is not just the front here and the back, but also for this kind of like, almost looks like wolf fur hanging off her side. I'm going to give it a dark because I'm going to highlight it after. It'll bring out the ridges. It's going to look good. And of course here I'm just basically checking to make sure there's little parts here and there that need to be touched up or I missed. Right, just to make sure that I'm good to go forward with my next color. Now here's also a good example of how, as you're painting you realize, oh, I missed this way over here. So as you're adding the colors to it, you start to notice these little things. You have to kind of go back. So I don't mind using war paint a lot of times because I'll have it on my palette, or I'll do a wet palette, right? So I've already got the color and I can kind of just go back and forth and retouch up. Citadel's not bad too because you just open the top. It's already been mixed up from the last time you shook it, and you can just add. So it's really your own discretion as to what kind of paints and stuff you like to use and how you want to use them. Ice Storm. So this I use for her actual kind of like her skin and her hair and whatnot. It's the perfect color. It's kind of a little bit of a watery color too, so it kind of washes in. So I could do a few layers and kind of, you know, get her skin the way that I'd like it to be. So this actually works out pretty good. So it's a good color to use. Now I also use this as a base foundation for the magic that she's conjuring in her hands here. And again, when you look at the picture, it's not like she's got one hand's on fire and the other hand's throwing frost or something like that. One hand looks like it's conjuring more of a mystic magic or something in it, while the other one is in fact kind of frosty, you know, but it doesn't look like fire and cold. And I tried to resemble that with her, and you'll see that when I get a little bit more of the layers done. But you can see the difference in the left hand and the right hand there already. And I think that's a little more realistic to the picture, rather than making one side of her all blue and one side of her all red. So at this point moving forward, I'm basically doing just pretty much touch-ups now. Little spots that I might have missed, a little bit of highlighting. I might take some more of that matte white and highlight some higher ridged areas, you know, as well as like her hair and stuff like that. I might fine-tune and get in there tighter with a little, you know, smaller paintbrush as well. And I don't think I recorded it, but on the back I used a Citadel Goldthorpe Gold, you know, just to make all of her little medallions shine, as well as her belt buckle in the front. Right here, this is where I'm doing it, I believe. And that turned out really good too, and it shows some of the smaller detail in her. You know, and then I get back to just kind of touching up areas like the leather, you know, bringing out some of the contrast in it. You know, and she's there we go. It's starting to turn out. I think that's going to look fantastic. I'm going to have to get the base done, and then we'll get her coated and ready to go. So here's where I'm using the matte white again. And again, you can see just kind of brushing it on my hand here and using it as you know, just a highlight to highlight some of the other areas. Now, kind of skip ahead here. I did do a little bit more of the Earthshade from Citadel and kind of finished off the character, and then I started getting the rest of the base ready. So now it's pretty much just a little bit of glue and get the back part done with the rocks so it ties in the same as all the other Gloomhaven characters we've done already. So here we go, I'm just getting the glue basically spread out. And I want to make sure I get it butted up right up to where that kind of water is, because I want to blend that right in so that it looks as though it's coming out and you don't see that plastic ridge, so it'll look a lot nicer. Now we start adding some of the bigger rocks to it. And then of course we'll get the battlefield brown battleground to fill in all the little space after we get the big rocks in. So here we go, we'll put that in. And then we're pretty much going to be done. I think she's going to look alright. Okay, so I'll sprinkle some of that on. I always use the lid from the other one. It catches all the stuff that falls too, so I don't waste it. I just dump it back into a container after. There we go. There's their base. Fills in, butts up right against that plastic perfectly, so it blends it in and you don't see that ridge. So I'm a finished product after the protector been put on. And here she is. There is our Spellweaver. Now, as you can see, when you look, I mentioned, see the little gold clasp or little gold things on the back of her belt. You know, get some of the smaller detail put in there. Focus better here. There we go. And that kind of just makes it kind of, you know, pop a bit. And then look at her hands. So you look at this side, and then look at that side. Now, so you can see this side, the one side's got a little bit more, maybe of like red tone, stuff like almost like she's just started to conjure that hand. You know, and the other hand up here has more of like the frost to her. And if you look at her, that's what she pretty much is almost like a frosty kind of person. So I kept to that. And that's her. There's our Spellweaver. I think she looks pretty cool. So until next time, guys, we'll be painting probably another Gloomhaven. I'm pretty excited about it. We'll see you then.
Turn around.
That's perfect. He looks good.
Yeah. Okay.